This is a big problem.
That's a tremendous problem.
Well, and passed on, even drugs such as Prozac.
Of course it has.
I mean, in the water supplies, city municipal water supplies, there are still signatures from that drug in the drinking water that are not purified out.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it is really a tremendous problem of using medications when they are not really necessary.
Right.
Without any understanding what would be the long-range effects.
Right.
Mostly for children.
Yes.
Because children, they grow up, their organisms are very subtle, and when they use medications to control their growth, to control their behavior, it is dreadful. It's a crime.
It is a crime. I couldn't agree with you more. And the lack of education, because this is the way, this is how we are educated, that these foods, this mass culture of these factory foods are the culture. It's counterculture to find sources that are organic until now. Now it's becoming more popular. Some movie stars have gotten on board. It kind of takes a movie star to make something popular.
Yes. And you see, the example of United States, really it is a bad example for all the world.
Yeah.
Because it's the most rich country in the world. It's the most developed country in the world. Country where you can find everything if you want. But the country where the health of the population is quite bad.
No, we're starving to death for real nutrients. As we get fatter and fatter, we are starving to death.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
And so this goes with our... I'd like to go back to water for just a moment. You were talking about natural spring water, which of course a very small percentage of the population would actually have access to. But what about some of the technologies, Patrick Flanagan's work and others, where they use elements, megahydrin and such, that structures water? Are these beneficial if you're trying to restore some energy to the water?
Tremendous beneficial.
Okay.
And of course, you're correct that to use spring natural water, it's difficult. But anyway, you can find it in stores.
Yes.
You can find on one shelf, it will be good water prepared with good minerals. And understand that it's distilled and then some minerals added. So it is absolutely dead water.
Dead water.
And then you can find practically the same price water from natural springs.
And I've heard you, but I heard you also mention the fact that water, the movement of water is what helps structure water. So in some cultures they actually observe a practice of pouring. The pouring of the water before drinking is very important. Can you talk about that from a scientific viewpoint? These are not just old wives' tales.
Yeah, so when we apply strong movement to water, we dissolve water molecules.
Yes.
And they create active radicals. Those radicals, they exist for billions fractures per second. But it's enough to combine different structure in water. And most of the structure comes due to some minerals that are kept in water, because practically pure water doesn't exist at all. It's just a mathematical model. So we all have some impurities in water, but it's normal. And then they create clusters around those atoms and molecules. And these clusters, they have a structure of a particular mineral or particular crystal, so they make water crystallized. And after this, water is much more structured.
And why is it important to have structured water?
Because our blood, it is a structured liquid. Our inner liquids in our stomach, it's all structured liquids. It's very easy to show. Please put a drop of blood on the glass, and you will see in several seconds it will be structured. And even if you dilute it, you will see some structure.
Now, distilled water, though, you take water and you distill it, no structure?
No structure, absolutely.
No structure.
Because it is absolutely chaotic process.
Yes.
So, the devices that structure water, they are very useful, but we need to take into account two topics. First of all, water should be pure. It shouldn't contain negative contaminations.
Arsenic, chlorine.
Arsenic, chlorine, then iron, then mercury. So a lot of waters from commercially available sources, they have these impurities. So what is recommended? Because it's due to pipes. We have so many pipes and it's understandable. So what is the first step should be? To use normal filters.
Normal filter?
Yes, normal filtering system. And typically it's several stages of filtering.
Right. But reverse osmosis, is that okay?
We don't need reverse osmosis.
Okay.
We need just normal filtering.
You mean like charcoal, or what do you mean by
typically
normal?
it comes, the first stage comes in paper filter. It filters out main impurities, big impurities. Then it is coal filter. Then it's microfiber filter.
Okay.
We don't need reverse osmosis.
Okay.
Because it changes structure.
Ah.
Filtering, it keeps the structure.
Okay.
And coal, it makes it even more structured. Then it makes sense to use some energizing device that make a structure to water, like Flanagans, like GA water, like something. Now there are a lot of devices of this kind available. Of course, they should be tested, but some of them are very effective. Then you have really good water, even from tap source in any city.
And this is really a foundational key to energizing our bodies again.
Yes, yes, that is the key principle and key element.
Okay, so we've talked about food. You don't want food that's basically grown factory style and dead. You want organic food grown from land that's been treated properly and vitalized. Right?
Yes, of course. But the first thing what I do coming to any market or any store, I just smell the food.
You smell it, yes.
Yes.
Most of it has no smell in the grocery store. In the,
so
in the
if it is
supermarket.
no smell, then it is synthetic. If it has some smell, then it has something to the earth.
Yes.
It may be not even organically grown. It may have some fertilizers, but anyway, if it has smell, it means that it has something from the earth.
Some kind of life force going.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, well,
then
that's
it's
a
good
good
for
one.
our health.
What about genetically modified organisms?
We have a lot of study now in Australia, in Russia, that demonstrate that GM food are really dramatic for animals.
The changes in the animals? By eating them, you mean? Or?
It was experiments, then they feed rats and rabbits with GM food.
What
And in
happened?
second, third generations, they have a lot of deformed offsprings. A lot.
Second and third generation, that's not that far out. So it's actually making changes or in the DNA.
It makes change in DNA, absolutely, in DNA structure. And it was a study done very precisely, very carefully. So the principle is we don't know exactly what would be the long-range outcome of this GM food.
Right.
Because it is artificial mixture of different genes.
Right.
And they add genes that may be really damaging for the body. Because the main principle is we can consume anything in little quantities. Will be even poison. In principle, we can recover.
We are. Arsenic,
Yes.
it's in the water.
Yeah,
Right.
in principle. But our liver, it keeps these traces of different negative influences, and it keeps it for time being, and it at some moment it comes to some level when we feel it.
Yes.
And the system reacts to this.
Right, and well, it's interesting. They've done these studies. What has the net effect been? You said, did you say Austria or Switzerland? Where these studies?
Australia.
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 Okay.
And in Russia.
And in Russia.
And
so,
some study in Switzerland as well. I know.
So are GMO are they banned in those countries as a result
In
of that?
Russia, it is banned.
Uh-huh.
In European community, it's banned. I don't know about Australia.
Okay. Interesting. We're quite a bit behind here in the U.S. on that.
Yeah,
Still trying to argue the point publicly to for public opinion that they're safe and okay.
Yeah, because it's
still
big
there.
money. We all understand because it's tremendous money.
Tremendous money.
Yeah, because this GM food, farmers can't keep these GM grains for next harvest. They need to buy it.
Yes,
That's it.
Monsanto.
Absolutely. So it's tremendous money for the industry.
Well, as a naive reporter about, maybe 15, 17, 18 years ago, I actually was invited to do a story on the flavor saver tomato at the university, not understanding any of this except there was a fish gene that was inserted into the genetic complex so that it wouldn't rot as fast. And it wasn't for years that I understood exactly what I had seen and what was going on. I had no idea of the complexities of what was to come.
Absolutely.
And so you get people in the media on board telling these stories, and for the last 15 years people have been eating genetically modified tomatoes. I hope not because I didn't know any better as a reporter than to say, no, run for your life.
Yeah, because the question is what would be in the next generations.
Exactly. Because when you're talking about rats, of course, you're seeing the DNA changes and very quick generational changes in humans. I don't want to wait to see what's going to happen. Yes. I think they certainly should be banned. And this brings us also, we've talked about that. We haven't talked too much about the air we breathe and the vitality and energetic imprint of the air. And you're really big on negative ions. Can
Sure.
you talk about that and how we can infuse those in where they naturally are not?
Yeah, it was a big study done, first of all, by our Russian scientist Chizhevsky in 40s and 50s, where it was demonstrated that air having no negative ions has very dramatic effect to life. And experiment was very precisely done. It was 2 sealed cages of rats, and in one cage it was air where all ions was filtered out.
Right.
And in another cage was air with increased quantity of negative ions.
Yes.
And it was demonstrated that in the cage with negative ions, longevity was 3 times bigger than in another cage.
Well, that's substantial, 3 times the lifespan.
Yes, so it is really a tremendous effect, 300%.
And in Russia, I heard in your lecture that it's required to have negative ion generators in, what, hospitals and clinics of certain types? This is good thinking.
It's not required.
It's just
it's
done?
It's not regulation to have it, but most of clinics, they do have it.
They do. It's not a requirement. This is voluntary.
Yes. It's not a voluntary because it is up to the doctors whether they have it or haven't, because they have some fundings, they have some resources, and it's quite popular because it's very well known in Russia.
How can we, besides the negative ion generators, what are some of the other ways in which we can infuse more negative ions into our own atmospheres in our homes, for example?
Yeah, first of all, those negative ions should be connected with water vapors.
Water vapors, okay.
So we should some appropriate content of water vapors, of humidity in the air, and then this is the best if it is negative charged water vapors. So in Russia and in Europe now we have special generators, electric generators, that produce water vapors enriched with negative ions. So it is in Europe and in Russia it's quite available. I don't know about how it is in the United States, but as it is coming fast, then I'm
It's not common, but you can find them if you wish, yes.